Well, welcome back to Simple Truth, where we try to pull out some truths out of the Bible, and we're in First Samuel. We are in chapter 24. We're hopefully continuing on with the story of David, and we're winding down this chapter. But in this story, we're talking again about David, right, sparing Saul's life, right? And again, David spares Saul's life and kind of pleads to him for some godliness. Now, listen, every time that we spare somebody's life, every time that we do something right, every time we don't do what we could do, what we have a right to, every time we drop our rock, right, it does not always end up well and right. So if you're under this idea that if I just do what God tells me to do, if I do the righteous thing, right, that it's always going to get me out of trouble, I'm always going to be okay, God's always going to spare me, and that doesn't work, right, all the time. We see that in stories of Joseph, and we see that in stories of David. We see that in the story of Daniel. Like, it doesn't always work out that way. So you need to understand that. We do a disservice to people because we're not always teaching the entirety of Christianity, which is sometimes you do righteous things and it doesn't go well. Sometimes the Sauls, the Pauls of life, they end up in prison. Sometimes, like almost all the disciples, you end up being martyred. Sometimes it gets persecution because people are persecutable. Sometimes we get sick. Sometimes. God just asks you to be faithful and to be righteous in what you're doing. He doesn't declare that it's always going to go well with you. Meaning, according to you. See, God's view of death and ours are totally different. He wants you to be in heaven with him. He wants you to spend eternity with him. That's his whole purpose. That's his whole plan. You and I have this whole concept that we think God wants us to be on this planet. Like, he wants us to keep living. Like, that's the end all of all things. If we just keep being good, then we're going to get more time on this planet. That's not God's end game, right? God's whole plan is, I'm going to put you on this planet to do two things. Number one, I want you to find me. And then once you find me, I want you to influence other people into finding me. That's the whole purpose, right? I want you to find me. When you find God, you're going to get his purpose, his plan for your life, which is going to include helping others find him. That's it. That's the deal. Why? Because you're going to live forever and ever and ever and ever on a new earth, right? Is going to make this earth not even seem like it ever was anything other than a nightmare. That's what you are going for. And so we need that perspective, right? So in chapter 24, starting in verse 12 again, he says, "May the Lord judge between me and you. May the Lord avenge me against you, but my hand shall not be against you. As the proverb of the ancient says, out of the wicked comes wickedness, but my hand shall not be against you." David has a great principle here. Right? I don't want to be a wicked person. No matter what you do to me, I want to be a godly person. I want godliness to come out of me. But out of wicked people, that's what comes out. You and I, right, need to understand that Jesus questioned people like, hey, out of a spring, can you get both fresh water and salt water? The answer to that is no. It's either one or the other. But we have this idea that, man, we're just playing this in-between game, this lukewarm game where, hey, sometimes I'm good and sometimes I'm bad. It's just the way it is. God says, no, that's not the way it is. If you're lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out. We don't pay nearly enough attention to that verse. It's not okay for you to have good water and bad water. It's not for you to have good things and wicked things. Out of the wicked come wicked things. So when you find yourself doing wicked things, you need to examine yourself. You need to go back to Psalm 51 like David did. Examine yourself and ask God, hey, God, now I need you to examine me. I think I'm pretty wicked. Now you tell me, you find me all the places. But here's the truth. Are you walking through each and every day and your thought process being, I'm not going to be wicked. I'm not going to do what other people do. I'm going to be godly no matter what. Man, that is a simple truth. It's either a yes or no. Are you walking around every day thinking that, or are you not thinking that? If you're not thinking that, then probably you're being used for wickedness. Well, you might do some good things, but you're not being godly. You're not being used for godly things. So answer that question here on Simple Truth, and we'll see you next time.